Hey guys, welcome back to our update on the Son Jung Min mystery. It's a mystery that's continuing and it's turning into a bit of a crisis here because it still hasn't been resolved. It's been over 50 days. The police have not been able to wrap up this investigation, and the instincts of the public turns out it seems to be correct. That had it not been for public attention, had it not been especially that conservative YouTube channel that I've been bringing you the CCTV coverage of, this case probably would have been wrapped up neatly in a bow where it would have been a missing person case. Most likely the fisherman would have been believed. Most likely it would have been concluded that SJM had walked into the river on his own and just drowned on his own accord. But because there have been so many inconsistencies raised by the public, the police can't automatically do that, it seems. So the latest update has been that the police are now going to form a commission. They're forming a commission where there are going to be 3 to 4 people from the police and 1 to 2 people from outside the police, made up of pretty much scholars or experts. They're going to meet next week and they're going to make a recommendation. The recommendation could either go in a direction where, wow, we do need to just wrap this up and we're going to wrap it up based on the evidence that we already have, or it looks like there might be some criminal element here and we need to investigate further. In that case, we'll give it about 30 more days and we'll meet once more. Now, this is a new committee. It's never ever been used before. It was formed back in 2019, so we don't even know exactly how it's going to function. It has no past precedent, and we don't even know if it's going to keep records. We don't even know if those records, even if they are going to be kept, are going to be released to the public. And this is what's also worrisome, is that usually these kind of committees you also have to be very suspicious of, because on the one hand, they are a good sign in the sense that if it does mean that we're going to see a breakthrough in the SJM case, it does give the police a way to change course and justify it and save a little bit of their pride. To say that, oh, well, this committee recommended us to investigate further, so we're going to go along. And not have to be like, oh gosh, we're either corrupt or either we made a big mistake. They can go that way. Or they could just be like, hey, look, all you guys were just so critical of us, but this committee also agrees with us. We're going to wrap this up. It is a missing person case. But in any event, no matter which way it goes, if the committee is secret, if the committee doesn't release its findings, if the committee doesn't show what it deliberated on and how, it's also suspect. It's also open to manipulation and also to influence. You know, it doesn't really change anything. It's just another group of people behind closed doors that can make decisions on behalf of the public that may or may not serve the public's interests. And I think people are very tired of it, because if you go through Korean life, most of the times you've come across a committee like this. I know I have been screwed by a committee like this, and a lot of the times it's people who just justify an outcome that they have already made, and they make a committee to make it look like they've come to a fair decision. And I'll tell you what a big red flag is if they go in with pencils, okay? If there's some sort of supposed scorecard and they go in with who uses pencils after like the 3rd grade? So if you see like a 50-year-old Korean man and above holding a pencil, you have to be very suspicious, because what they do is they say, oh yeah, just grade however you want in pencil, and then Somebody goes and erases the numbers to fit whatever score they need to get the result that they all agreed upon. So be very sus. Any old man with a pencil? What is he doing with a pencil? Some other quick updates. There have been questions about SJM's shoes because that has been one of the final pieces that the police have mentioned as the last part of their investigation, according to how they wanted to wrap things up. In their public estimation, if we can't find the shoes, then that's it. Okay, then we're going to wrap up the case. So they were trying to find SJM shoes and they still haven't been found. But what we did see from additional analysis of video from SJM's phone when they were just filming them horsing around, we saw that SJM's shoes on the mat were placed on the side. We saw that SJM had taken off his shoes. You know, like sometimes when you're on a picnic, you don't want to wear your shoes, and so you just take them off. So we do know that very late at night, probably around the 2 a.m. mark, SJM did not have his shoes on. So most likely at the 2:18 a.m. picture, he did not have his shoes on. So that also explains why, when he was in the water, he did not have his shoes on. And that also further gives more suspicion to the theory that he did not walk. He did not walk in the river to the middle of the deeper part of the water, because they did the analysis of the socks. If he had walked, first of all, he might not even have any socks because the mud would have probably sucked them out. Or they would be really muddy at the very least. Or what? Are you going to say that like him floating around in the river for 5 days was sort of like a washing machine? It was like a, drum setaki and like it, or washing machine, and it was just like sudsing and bubbling. Maybe, I don't know. Or the eels were eating the. Okay, anyway. Then there was also some fake news out there saying that at 1:47 he got beat up. There was some fake CCTV footage claiming that there was like a group punching SJM, and that was proven false by those conservative YouTubers. They were able to match up the timeline where they were filming that Instagram video of, Mr. A dancing and climbing up trees. And so at the 1:47 a.m. mark, that was a time when SJM was holding the phone and Mr. A was dancing, and he was like, trying to do some dance moves with SJM holding the phone. So that was proven to be false. And that is also why I believe that this conservative YouTube channel is doing the good, like a very good job on, bringing a very rational and very sober analysis to this whole case, because they're also calling out fake news. And some of their frustration is that they're saying that they're being called fake news by the mainstream media, but they're saying like, this mainstream media, they are like attacking us, like accusing us of being fake news, yet we are the ones that are being much quicker at chopping down and calling out the fake news than they are. And what's kind of ironic is that some of these mainstream news outlets are like the conservative outlets, right? And so they're supposed to be on the same team, but then now they're fighting. So now you know that something has happened. And that's what happened before, President Park got impeached. Members of, those media teams started fighting. Just saying. Also, in the last video, remember I mentioned the jazz hands, like the jazz? Well, apparently, I guess Korean people are not as good as identifying jazz hands, even though Chicago, the musical is real popular here in Korea. It is like sold out for many, many runs and performances, and it always comes back. But a lot of the people thought that instead of like jazz hands like this, that Mr. A was carrying something like this. And that I thought it was just very obvious that Mr. A put his arm over SJM's shoulder, so that's why I didn't mention it. But yeah, he did in the middle of that video. But other people thought that the netizens, the Korean netizens who didn't notice the jazz hands, thought that he was holding like something that was like either a knife or a syringe, and instead of like, you know, going like buddy buddy, that he was like going like this and stabbing him in the neck. So that's also fake news. No, we knew that it was jazz and buddy buddy and then jazz. All right? Yes. Thank you, Performing Arts High School. Now, speaking of the latest updates with the conservative YouTube channel, that conservative YouTube channel is being attacked by Mr. A's lawyers. So Mr. A's lawyers have decided to sue them for defamation. So there are going to be like 39 videos of this conservative YouTube channel being attacked for defamation. So Mr. A's lawyers said that they were going to file this suit with the cyber division of the police. So defamation in Korea, that would go under the criminal court, not the civil court. And so you can file lawsuits under criminal or civil. So criminal basically is you could go to jail, and some of the laws, like as we referred to in a previous video, could also be like you could pay a fine or go to jail. And some of the laws, like you have to go to jail. But what's really, really interesting here, and what I find ironic again, is that this defamation law has been a standard go-to used by conservatives. Usually conservative politicians, conservative business circles, usually people in the conservative camp who are abusers of power usually have opted for defamation suits, or the threat or the whisper of, I'm gonna maybe perhaps pursue a defamation suit against you, so you better shut up, or you better not say that, or you better watch yourself. Like, that has been a long-standing way to intimidate people. And it usually has been kind of like the conservative side has done that. And so now I find it very ironic that one of the kind of the leading like up and coming like voices of the conservative movement on YouTube here in Korea is basically now challenging this favorite tactic of the conservatives, saying like, bring it on. So they're telling Mr. A's lawyers like, bring it, we don't care. Like, you know, they're like, those defamation charges, like even if they add up, they don't cost that much anyway, and they're meaningless. And I think what, in a way, they are exhibiting and showcasing how blunted that tool has become, especially in the internet age, because that law had really been set up in the age of big media, newspapers, radio, TV, and also just even in everyday life. Like if you make a comment, that could be pursued for defamation. But since there's so many comments now, that has pretty much killed the way that people can pursue defamation. What, they're going to go after every single there's probably like billions of comments now. So a lot of foreigners, when they come to Korea, they are very surprised by this defamation law, because even if you tell the truth, you can be prosecuted for defamation. So let's go over this law, because this law, because of that truth clause, has really, I think, set back democracy quite a lot and created a lot of pain and suffering for people here in Korea. And I think what this case has now been doing is really kind of chipping away at how ridiculous this is. So let's look at this. So if you defame somebody by just saying the truth, you can go to jail for 2 years or be fined about $5,000. If you defame somebody by using something that's not true, you can go to jail for about 10 years or pay a fine about $10,000. Now, this is just like saying it. This is not in the media. If you use some sort of media vehicle that goes up a little bit. So you can go to jail for about 3 years or pay a fine of 7 million won, which is about $7,000 or less than $7,000 if you print something true that defames somebody. And if it's not true, it's 7 years to 10 years in jail or 15 million won, or about $15,000. So that's the range of how much it would cost if you do defamation in the criminal sense. So what about the news? How does that work out? Because they're always printing the facts and it's supposed to be true. Well, if it's true and if it's for the public good, then you're allowed to say it. Then even if it's the truth, it's okay. So that's the tricky situation. So let's say you're a whistleblower and you're the first to say something like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. Usually if you're the first one, that's the real risky area because it's defamatory, because nobody, at that time, nobody believes you. There's not like an established thing of like that's in the public good. It's more of like, wow, you're making a wild accusation and nobody knows if it's true or not. So that's what really stops people from speaking out, because you never want to be that first one because you're not protected. After everybody's been saying stuff, that's when everybody jumps in and everyone's like saying, yeah, because it's safe. But see how like the law has set up this environment where even if you tell the truth, you're not going to be protected. So if you do have the means, if you do have the power, like where you can set it up where, you can establish that you are telling the truth in the public good, you automatically have an advantage. But if you don't, it is really hard. Not only that, you can't say crap about dead people, okay? They're even covering dead people. Okay, if it's true, you can say stuff. But if it's not true, you cannot say crap about dead people. So if you defame a dead person publicly using false facts, you can go to jail for 2 years or be fined 5 million won, or about $5,000. And this law was very publicly applied about just 6 months ago when a former president of South Korea, Chun Doo-hwan, was convicted of defaming a dead priest from an incident 40 years ago. 40 years ago. Okay, so when Korean people hold grudges, I'm not kidding. They hold grudges. Even a former president of South Korea, look at this 90-year-old man defaming a dead priest. So he had written something about this priest in his memoir, and then the family of that priest got really upset. They filed this complaint, and I don't think he went to jail again. He's been in jail before for just, being a dictator and stuff. If you want to know more, just watch my other video on all of that. Anyhow, so who gets to decide whether it's defamation or the public good? Well, it's essentially a judge, because we don't have a jury system here in Korea. Yeah. So when I was in America, I would always be like, I don't understand this jury system for real, because I don't know why non-professionals are deciding such important decisions. They don't understand anything legal. They don't understand anything technical. I just don't understand. I do understand why people try to get out of jury duty, but now I understand, because who's in the room with the judge to make sure he's not corrupt? Who? No one. No one. We are putting all of our faith in the moral superiority of this person. And I think you're playing with hubris there. So as imperfect as that jury system is, it creates a check and balance. And it does acknowledge, I think it's a little bit wise in terms of human nature. It just acknowledges just the fact of human nature and sets up a system to cover that. I mean, we don't have juries, thank goodness, for like if you need brain surgery, it's not going to go to a jury of normal people. If you need cancer treatment, thank goodness it doesn't go to a jury, because we don't expect doctors to be that corrupted, thank goodness. But for judges, I think we all come to a certain understanding that that's an area where no matter how good of a person you are or how great your civics or, education system might be, that's a weak area. So you might want to set up some safeguards. And if you don't, in a society, well, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like when you don't have that kind of system set up in your government. So for this lawsuit against this conservative YouTube channel, the law firm is going after Mr. Shin, the owner of the channel, and then all of his employees, yes, including the Harry Potter guy, and also the guy who, just goes out and, reports and does whatever he can, no matter what physical condition he is in, and that really pretty reporter who gives her opinions like a girlfriend that you never want to get into an argument with. But in any event, I think Korean people are very tired of all of these decisions being pre-made and then just being presented with a show of democracy, or a show of a commission, or of a show of something that's supposed to be fair, that we all know that is just false. And even in this case, I'm not going to mention Mr. A's law firm's name, because from the moment he got this lawyer, all of the articles mentioned the law firm's name as an adjective right before Mr. A. It was like excessive, like you don't really need to say that. So for example, like, if somebody went to Stanford, it's kind of like saying like, oh yeah, Stanford grad Peter went to the park. Or can you tell Stanford grad Peter to pass the salt? Or, oh, can you tell Stanford grad Peter to pick up his car at 3 p.m.? Or, hello, this is Stanford grad Peter, how can I help you? I mean, it's just like every single sentence said like, the law firm's name, law firm's name, law firm's name. And you know why I think they're doing that? Is that they're signaling out to the public, market's open, if you want to make a deal, this is the law firm, look up the law firm, look at who they're connected with, this is now open season. And so if we want to change the outcome of where this predetermined result will be, we gotta trade. Why do I say that? Well, before I even went into my own case, one of my aunties told me, and she's, had some experience in some of these big time things. She said, like, look, there's no point in you going to court. There's absolutely no point in you going to court. I was like, why? Isn't there justice in the justice system? And she's like, well, do you have a job that you can give to the judge's kids? I'm like, what? No. She's like, okay. And do you have a lawyer who has a docket of cases that he can trade with other lawyers and judges? I'm like, what? Because every lawyer and every judge, they're going around, at trading, like saying like, okay, I'll give you this case, give me a win on this one, I'll accept the loss on that one. And they're just like basically playing a game of musical chairs, like negotiating wins and losses. I was like, that can't be true. That can't be true. There has to be some justice in the justice system. Like, why would you even have all of this? Like, why would you even create all these courts? And why would you go through all this process if it's just kind of like, they're like playing Monopoly in the back? So we have to be very aware of what's going to happen in the next week or so, because we don't know how this committee is going to take this Son Jung Min case next. We don't know who these people are going to be on the committee and what their intentions really are. So I thought maybe it would be an interesting idea, at least, and I know a lot of you from afar have been like really frustrated by this case and really been wanting to do something, and I thought maybe it would be kind of fun, if you guys are up for it, to send in some video messages, just kind of like your thoughts on how you feel about this case and what you wanted to say to people in Korea. So if you guys want to do that, I thought maybe it'd be cool to compile some of your responses and then just upload it onto the channel, because people in Korea are quite interested in seeing how other people around the world respond to issues that they really care about here in Korea. So I thought maybe if you guys wanted to maybe respond to questions, 3 different questions in 3 different categories, because I wanted to divide it into 3 sections. So if you could respond in 60 seconds or less to the following 3 questions. First, how does this case make you feel? Like, how do you feel now after listening to all of the facts and seeing all the CCTV footage and now knowing what you know about how this case has been going? Second, what do you want to say to Son Jung Min's family? What do you want to say to the family who lost their son? And third, what do you want to say to Korea? And this can be broad. You can say something to the Korean people, you can say something to the Korean legal system, you can say something to the Korean police, just to any part of Korean society. So just those 3 areas. You can respond to all 3, or you can respond to just one if you want to. Just upload it to YouTube. You can even make it a private link and email it to me at editorial@theseoulite.com. Include your name, where you're from, and optionally what you do and your age. And then I'll put it as a graphic on your video response. I'll also outline the instructions on the description part of this video. So just do it in the next week or so, and then hopefully, I'll either attach it to the end of some of the videos or make separate videos and upload it so that we can just all get a sense of like what our community is feeling about this case. I know a lot of you have had a lot of strong reactions from around the world and have really shared some very valuable insights, and have really kind of, at least, really moved me by sharing how similar your experiences have been in your own countries. And I think that's something that Korean people would like to hear as well. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. And thanks so much for joining us on this journey. All right, bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.